Imagine, as John Lennon would say, imagine a world in which there is no conflict, in which we all just get along, live in peace with one another, in harmony. It's a wonderful thought. And whenever I see somebody express the opinion that why can't we just get along, my first reaction is still one of agreement. Indeed, why can't we just get along? But life, I'm afraid, is not as easy as that. You see, the fact that you and I, if you're like-minded, you and I are of the opinion that wouldn't the world be so much better if we could all get along and live in peace with each other? That does not change that there are people out there who are not of that opinion. And they come in many different flavors. They come as racists, for example, who will not be content with thinking that people who they perceive as being of an inferior or different race would enjoy the same quality of life or standard of living or whatever you want to call it as they would. They would see something wrong with that. And they would express the desire that such people should be put in their place and either not enjoy such a high standard of life or not enjoy the freedom of movement or whatever. Then there, of course, are the religious fundamentalists who might be, if you're lucky, harmless enough in real life, but who would express the desire that in an imaginary afterlife you should be subjected to some form of suffering. Then there are people of other ideologies, communists, for example, who also express the desire that those who do not want to live along the rules of their communistic ideology should be subjugated in some way or another. And all these people share a common denominator. They share the desire that other people should come to harm. And of course, a very simple word for that is the word hatred. There are people out there who feel hatred towards other people for whatever reason. And no matter how much they deny it to themselves, or even if you confront them, they would try and talk around it and try to present their unsavory ideas as something other than what they really are. Ultimately, what it boils down to is that these people do feel hatred towards other people, and they express that by giving vent to these ideas, these notions, that other people should come to some form of harm. Whether it's just because certain privileges will be withheld from them, or whether they should actually be physically punished, or come to real harm, or be killed. That's just a matter of gradation. But in the end, it is all the same thing. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with seeing this for what it is, and pointing out that it is morally objectionable and wrong. And you see, this is where a lot of people who are of the opinion that we should all just get along tend to lose the plot a little bit. They see somebody point out another person's hatred, and they see them stand up for their own rights or for the rights of somebody else, and they're standing there and they say, listen, you can project as much hatred onto us as you like, but we are not going to sit down and let it happen. We are going to stand up for our own rights, and you will not subject us to all the horrible things that you would like to subject us to. We are not going to take this sitting down. We're going to stand up for ourselves, and we will not be moved. Now that is, of course, a gesture of defiance. And it is, indeed, accepting that there will not be peace. That there will not be a harmonious living together without conflict. But the desire to avoid conflict cannot extend to the point where you allow yourself to be used as a doormat, or where you sit down quietly and keep silent while others are being used as doormats. At that point, you have a duty to yourself and to other people to stand up and point out the injustice. And there is absolutely no benefit to be had in holding back at some point, at that point. At pretending it's not as bad as it actually is. At sugarcoating the pill. At that point, it does boil down to having to call a spade, and pointing out exactly what's going on, in no uncertain terms. That is no intolerance. That is not hatred. As long as you have the common sense to refrain from going to this condemnatory mode yourself, where you start saying that other people should come to some form of harm, you are not the same as them. No matter how much you speak up, no matter how harshly you judge somebody else, as long as you refrain from this condemnation, you are not the same as them. And you should stand up for yourself. Don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise.